There are two main points to note about Flexbox. The first is that everyone uses Flexbox. And second, you usually set Flexbox properties on the element's parent, and less often on a child element itself. We'll get into all of this in 6 parts. We'll do flex alignment and justification. We'll talk about how flex children, like children in real life, can both override and terrorize their parent elements. We'll show how to use Flexbox and auto margin to align buttons in a pricing table, how to keep footers at the bottom of a page. We'll literally fix HBOmax.com, and we'll talk about how we can wrap items using Flexbox. Let's start with alignment and justification. Really basic here. Let's use a section as an example, just a simple section, and we'll set the height to 100 VH, 100% of the viewport height. And we're doing this to demonstrate that when we drag in a heading from the add panel, by default, it knocks to the top left of the section. This is expected behavior. Now, we want to center this heading. Let's go back to our list of 2. We'll use flex, and we'll apply it to the parent of the heading. Let's do that now. The heading's parent is the section. Let's select the section. We just turn on flex, and we can align and justify that heading to the center. And that's it. That's centering things in Flexbox. Here's a card, just a div block with an image, a heading, and a paragraph, and it's already in another section. Top left, like everything in HTML by default, with the card selected. If we add Flexbox, no good. We used Flexbox, but we failed to select the card's parent. Let's undo, and instead, let's select the section element, the parent, and turn Flexbox on there. Align, justify, the child, the card follows suit. So what if we have multiple cards in a section? Same rules apply. Again, we select the parent, and because we have Flexbox here, these cards are horizontal. We could also do vertical, back to horizontal, back to horizontal. And with multiple objects, we have more control over alignment, justification. We can even change the order in which things appear. Now, keep in mind that visual changes in Flexbox don't make their way over to screen readers. So navigating a layout using something like VoiceOver is going to follow the order of elements in the navigator, or document order. But that's it. People use Flex. People usually set Flex properties on the parent. Let's talk about when children don't follow the rules. Same layout here, but because we already set Flex on the parent, because we've applied Flex to this section, selecting any of the children unlocks even more control. But there is something to note here. If we start making a change on any one of the child elements, notice how it's affecting all of them. And that's because the rules of classes still apply. All these cards have the same class applied. So let's undo, because if we only want one of these cards, if we only want the last one to be affected, let's make sure we add a combo class, a more specific selection to style the card we want to style. When we do, we can override those rules, and that includes things like manually setting the order. Maybe we want this one first. So we have Flex, which we set on the parent, in this case the section, and we use the parent element to align and justify its children. If we want, we can override the Flex parent on any of the Flex children, of course, keeping in mind that we need to use a different class or a combo class if we want to break the rules on only one Flex child. But that's children breaking the rules. Let's do a pricing table, and this one's really straightforward. And the big aha moment for Flexbox here is that you can use it in conjunction with other layout tools. This is CSS Grid. It's just 3 columns with a div block inside each. Those are our pricing cards. But even though they're equal height, the buttons are all over the place. But if we select a pricing card, even though it's in a grid, we can set the cards. They're all using the same class, by the way. We can set them to flex. It's horrible, but let's fix that and stack vertically. And what we're really here for is this. Because the cards are flex, we can select a child element, like the buttons here, same class applied to all of our buttons, and we can push them down to the bottom. And to do this, we just set the top margin to auto. That is it. Now, this works in a grid because by default, all the pricing blocks stretch to fill the space inside each cell. But the magical auto margin technique won't work as expected if things aren't an equal height to begin with. There's lots of ways to do this, but a grid stretching the children to fit is usually a safe bet for equal height layouts. Okay, magical auto margin example 1 complete. Example 2, here's the design. There's tons of white space underneath. How do we get the footer to always stay at the bottom? Well, same concept, but on a bigger scale. Because with the body element on any page selected, let's go over and access our body all pages tag. We're showing two ways to do this. On the left is if you haven't added a class to the body. On the right is if you have added a class to the body. But it all looks the same once we're there. We'll do two quick things. One, let's set the tag to flex. We'll use Flexbox. And two, we want the sections and the site content to stack vertically. And that's it. And the magic part comes with auto margin. We can get out of editing the tag and do one more thing. And that's taking the footer and setting the top margin to auto. And now it's always going to be on the bottom, even if there isn't a lot of content on the page. Magical auto margin example 2 complete. Let's fix HBO Max, because whenever we log in on a desktop computer, this is what we see. It's a solid layout, it's a clean design, but everything's sort of chunked over to the left. But it looks so much better if it was properly aligned. And one way to do this is with Flexbox. So let's open CSS Preview so we can see exactly what we're coding behind the scenes. And for us, are we going to rebuild the whole site? No, we're just going to use a screenshot of the site, but the principle is exactly the same. It's chunked over to the left. So what do we do? Well, everyone uses Flexbox, check, something, something, the parent element. Let's do that. Select the parent, that's the body. Let's go over to style it. Let's set the body to flex. And we know we want any sections on the page to stack vertically, but most importantly, we want to align to the center. And all we do is just copy this code. Now, we could export this whole thing, but we're just going to use Sublime Text here to copy the CSS properties we need. And once we do, it's time to fix HBO Max. Let's right-click, inspect, and we'll do just two things. One, we'll navigate to the div that's chunked to the left, then turn off the left positioning. No discernible effect yet. And two, since we know we have to set flex on the body, let's select the body, go into our styles, and just paste. And that's it. HBO Max fixed, but we didn't stop there.
Dear HBO, it's Screamer again. I love the content on your platform. However, the layout chunks to the left on larger displays. Here's the code to fix that using Flexbox. Sincerely, Greamer.
Great work, Greamer. Let's cover our final topic. This is wrapping, and we'll use this basic tags layout. And right now, this div block, we called it tag wrapper. It has a defined height that's already set. And here's the thing, if we set flex, the parent of these tags, even if we align and justify things, they don't fit quite as expected. So if we turn on wrapping, now things wrap using the available space inside the parent element. And we have these newly unlocked controls to align our tags however we want. And if the tags end up changing size, maybe if we change the padding on both sides of the tag, they'll wrap perfectly when they hit the inner boundary of the tag wrapper. But that's wrapping in Flex. Now, before reviewing, we often get the question, when should we build with Flexbox and when should we build with CSS Grid? Because we used both in the pricing example. Which one's better? These are great questions because we can often use different tools to achieve the exact layout we're looking to build. But what we did was create specific lessons on Webflow University that cover this. So if you're getting familiar with Flex and Grid, check out Flexbox versus Grid. And of course, check out all the things you can build with Grid itself. But in this lesson, we did an overview of alignment and justification on a Flex parent. We showed how Flex children can override their parents. We used magical auto margin to push buttons to the bottom of this pricing layout. We used the same technique to stick our footer to the bottom of every page. We fixed hbomax.com, and we talked about how we can wrap Flex children to take up multiple lines inside a Flex parent. And that's an overview of using Flexbox to build for the web.